Cristian Martinez, who is a writer for this incredible show. Please give Cristian a hand as he comes. No introduction needed for Cierra Ramirez. Sierra, please stand down. The beautiful and talented Zuri Adele. Creator and executive producer Joanna Johnson. Please give her a hand. We can keep going until Joanna gets here, you guys. Now, jumping into this, for those who are not born and raised in Los Angeles, I hope I wasn't the only one who had anxiety when they first moved here in the episode. The parking tickets, I feel like it's like a rites of passage. Once you get about 7, you're kind of an Angelino. You might as well just get your license changed and just... Yeah. So, a lot of themes throughout this first episode. I mean, jam-packed, aside from the anxiety. One of the things, racial injustice, which I think is going to particularly continue. So, it's brave to do that in this current society, being able to, with the political climate, with what's happening, and media being so important. I definitely believe it was intentional. So, how did you decide to actually go this particular route?
Well, on The Fosters, which this is a spin-off of, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that show, but we did a lot of social justice stories and socially conscious stories, and it's important to us as storytellers. One of the reasons I wanted to be a writer was to try to put something good out in the world and hopefully, change people's hearts and minds. And so that was always going to be a part of the show, and the show becomes, after the pilot, even more about social issues, and especially the Jamal Thompson case, which when we were writing the pilot, Stephon Clark had just been shot, and it seems like it's obviously there's, in the past, I believe, year alone, there's been 25 shootings of LAPD officers, of people of color in LA even. And so we wanted to tell that story, and one thing that for me was that what I think people don't understand is that, and maybe they don't even know, is that most of the time, almost all of the time, the police officers are not charged. And it takes so long to come to trial that people have forgotten because there's someone new. And trying to, and the other aspect is the lack of offering critical care. It seems to me, when I've seen these shootings, they let the victim just sit there and bleed to death. And I think that's something I wanted to point out. And I don't think it's brave, I think it's necessary. And and so bring it on if they're not happy with us.
All right. Hashtag bring it on. Zuri, your character ain't nobody to mess with. And so I'm surprised you're not the law clerk. What type of preparation did you do for the role, and how did you feel throughout the filming and even looking at the current climate?
Preparation, life in this body, and life in this world and in this climate. What's interesting is I actually wore this shirt to my audition. And I say that because Malika lives in me, and I in her, in a way. I mean, there are so many ways, like you said, she's not anyone to mess with. She's someone who I aspire to be like. And in terms of preparation, I grew up in a household that was very passionate about Black liberation. and about understanding who I am from the perspective of somebody who is of African descent and somebody who is oppressed. And I went to Spelman College, so I studied at a historically black college where I was able to learn even more about my history before slavery. So the understanding of self and worth from the inside perspective of a person of African descent was my preparation, I guess, of life itself. And then navigating that in a world where, we're in the U.S. With the history of slavery as a descendant of the enslaved every day is part of my preparation.
Thank you.
And I think one thing I was going to say is that every time a person of color gets shot, they say, "Oh, we need to talk about race," and then we don't. We talk about it for 5 minutes, and then we don't. And it's uncomfortable for everyone to talk about it. And I read this book, the writers know I talk about it, it's called White Fragility, and why it's so hard to talk to white people about racism. And I highly recommend it. Every white person should be forced to read it, because it really enlightened me to my own privilege that I'm not even, that I as a progressive person wasn't even aware of. And attitudes and things that I take for granted, that I'm not even aware of. And 1 in 9 people in this country knows a black person. 1 in 9 only. So part of the problem is we live in this very segregated world. Even though maybe we work together, everyone goes back into their own world. People don't know each other, and they don't know each other's lives, and we're not talking about these things. And we want to talk about this. But the mic doesn't. We want to talk about these things, and it's important also to me that Zuri and Cierra and Cristian, who are people of color, who are that their voices are being heard, and that and I was saying before that Patrice Cullors, who's one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, is a consultant on the show, and she appears actually in the finale episode. And so it's really important to me that they are driving this conversation, not me, but that people are helping me to get it right. And so I'm so grateful to all of you for that.
And with that conversation, because people are so segregated, what they do know about each other is what they see on TV, as we were talking about yesterday. So one of the reasons why I'm a writer is because when I was growing up, I only saw myself as the help or as a criminal. And after seeing yourself like that in such a negative light, it starts to manifest. And I want to tell empowering stories, especially Latinos, empowering stories on them being a full, nuanced, full dimensional person and people.
Now, Cristian, was it difficult to get into a writer's room? Because we've seen or we've heard on social media about the statistics of how the writer's rooms are actually built. So were there any struggles to get to where you are, to get in the room? And are there people in the room that look like you?
So the first show that I worked on, I was an assistant on, and I was the only person of color in that office. There were no writers of color in that writer's room. But we had a mutual friend on the show that I was working on, and she knew Joanna, and Joanna happened to be on the Warner Brothers lot getting coffee, and they were looking for a writer's assistant, and they had been hiring or looking for people, and I was just like a last minute thing, and I was hired as a writer's assistant on the Fosters, and I was there for 3 years.
We made him do it for 3 years because he was really good at it.
And then I was staffed, and then Joanna brought me along to get role, which is sort of my.
But it is hard to get. I think it is hard. I think a lot of writers' rooms are primarily white and primarily male, and that's a real problem because for perspective and points of view, that are being reflected
Right.
on television are largely the point of view of white men. And I think we know their point of view, and thank you very much. We've had enough of it. You know? we need someone the other day said that they weren't going to reach any white men anymore, even if they were progressive, because they thought that their opinions were amplified enough in the world. And I thought that was clever. But Hollywood has a long way to go, and in writers' rooms, at networks, in the executive ranks, because you don't tell stories you don't know.
Right.
And, so we need to change.
Right. And we were lucky that the first season of Trouble, it was such a diverse room, and when we're having conversations about race and telling stories about race, we obviously want to base that in reality. And it's such, we're so thankful that, often writers of color are the only person that's non-white. So it has this pressure of telling, that community story like perfectly, because there's no one else to give a voice to that. And so we were very lucky for Good Trouble. Like, I wasn't the only Latino writer on staff that could speak to those issues. I wasn't the only person of color that could also speak to what we were trying to say.
Yeah, and I think we can do better, even. I think that we're we have a more diverse room, and I think that that's really important to me. To also bring people up too, that help train everybody, and even maybe if someone's a little green, it's because they haven't had an opportunity. A writer has not had an opportunity to get into the room, and so take that chance on them, and so it's important.
Cierra, so your character, you face two different obstacles, I would say. You're female in a male-dominated industry, and you're Latina.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, too.
When you think about the perception, some may consider both inferior. So, how did you go into this particular role knowing that? And also, do you see that same energy in real life? Because the entertainment industry, as Joanna just said, is male-dominated as well. So, your character versus your real life.
Right.
How do you see that?
I was really, really excited about this storyline. I mean, just alone, those obstacles alone, just taking that on. And I think not only in tech, it's like it reflects a lot of different careers, and I think a lot of people can relate. But I'm really excited to see where this storyline goes. I mean, it's really fun to kind of fight the patriarchy and kind of make yourself known. And, when it comes to Mariana, I think she's someone that has always kind of had her way. And, or she can talk her way into anything. Or, her moms were always there to help. But it's the real world. And you're hit with it like a train on a track. She's coming to realize really, really quickly that, it's not everything that she thought it was going to be, and she isn't special. She's, a woman, and she's going to have to make herself known in this world without stepping on toes, but also she realizes I shouldn't have to. I should be able to wear my dress, and you not look at me any differently, and I deserve to be here just as much as you do.
And she steps on toes pretty quickly.
Oh,
tell them what you do.
With her heels.
No, but tell them what she does. What she does actually right away.
Oh wait, what did
Gender playback.
Oh, well, okay. Oh yes.
I think can we tell? Can we tell them?
Give us a little bit. We like insider information. It's not illegal right now.
That's pretty good. We're gonna use some insight.
Well, Mariana, we know that Mariana is always like, if something's not fair, she's going to stand up for it.
100%.
And she realizes fairly early on that there's a huge gender pay gap, and which of course there is in every career.
One again, it kind of reflects in life in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And she gets some of the women there together to sort of vent about things and talk about things, and they want to try to expose that. but then when she gets all the women's salaries, she realizes another thing, which is that there's a pay gap for people of color, and that she's getting paid less than a white female engineer who was hired at the same time, and how that will stay with her for her entire career, because her base salary is what she gets her raises based on. So she'll never be able to catch up. And she says, to the girls, and basically, look, we have to fight for this too. And of course, they're like, well, they're all white. They're like, let's just do one thing at a time. Let's do women, and then let's do the other thing. And she points out that you cannot leave the most vulnerable of you behind. So of course she just started this job, and she's already coming in making trouble. But that's Montana.
Now, I don't think I've ever seen a show where the characters move downtown Los Angeles. I need somebody to break that down to me, because downtown, you hear, no matter where you move to in Los Angeles, like the parking, all the one-ways, the pay for parking, living downtown. Please, can anyone talk
Well,
to
a lot
me
of
about
people
that?
don't have cars that live downtown, especially if they live and work downtown. And a lot of young people are living downtown. I mean, you can't even afford to live downtown now. It's so expensive, and in some ways it's becoming, gentrified, like so many of our neighborhoods. But we're pushing the homeless, pushing out as these more and more luxury apartments and condominiums and things go up, and really not dealing with the homeless problem, which is something we want to talk about in the next season. We're going to deal with, but it's a fun place to live if you can afford it. And we just thought that was something also that you don't see a lot of shows of. When a show's in LA, it's at the beach or it's Hollywood. They don't see downtown, and we thought that would be a really fun thing to explore.
And a lot. So I'm going to send an email to my neighbors and say I need some stuff to see if I can get my place. They said the bed looked comfortable, but when he jumped, he didn't bounce. But okay, well, maybe she likes a firm mattress. And Malika was just folding. I said, you know what? I just did laundry, and so how we don't like to fold laundry. You put it in. Okay, sorry. I'm proud of the show. I'm proud of the diversity behind the camera, in front of the camera. And as Joanna said, it could be even more. And Cristian told about how he actually started to work with you. So with that being said and that being known, are there ways that shows like Good Trouble is looking for more diverse behind the scenes and in front of the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Hollywood crews need to be more diverse. They're really not. Of course, it's important to us to try to hire diverse directors and women directors, and that's really important. And it's giving people an opportunity to build their resume, and I think that's important. But we are not there. We are nowhere near. There's a lot more to be done. But at one point I said to the network, and they were very supportive. I said, I'm not hiring any more white writers, so don't send me anymore, because I have enough. And this is how I feel. And people say often, like, we're looking for assistants. Well, there's just no people of color. We're stuck in those resumes. And I'm like, well, then let's ask some people that might know people. But let's figure that out. And I think then everyone has to work a lot harder. You're right.
And it's so important. I mean, I'm sure we all know this, and I have to say, it's just so important for there to be diversity behind the camera.
Which there isn't enough of. You and I have talked about that.
Yeah, and there will be more of. Because when we're telling a story that, for instance, we're telling a Black Lives Matter story, we need a black male in the space to be able to speak to that perspective. We're speaking about this dead Black man. We need a director who can just see it through that lens right away and shoot those shots. We need writers, we need crew members, we need hair and makeup. Everyone has a hand in what goes on the camera. While it may be the actors at the end who people see, we need people who know how to light brown skin. We need people who know we need a director who can tell the story from a Black woman's perspective, a Latino woman's perspective. We need all of that. We need to understand that there is so much diversity within each community that one person is never enough. Nobody should feel othered in their place of work when they're representing a whole group of people. So as long as we normalize behind the scenes, we can really reflect truth in front of the camera.
There was a tweet that I think went viral, and it was said, "I don't mind being the only Black person in this space. I just shouldn't have to be."
Yes.
And so when you think about that, and I love what the show is doing, because you are walking the walk and talking the talk, and numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. You see it in the box office all the time, because we hear the stories that certain demographics won't sell overseas or won't sell here. But we see you're not just getting the viewership from the Fosters, but everyone is going to be, because they feel represented. And one thing that the show is doing really well, you're bringing on consultants who can actually help tell the story from not a sort of white man's perspective on a Black Lives Matter story. That is important, and we've seen in the media where a lot of shows have gotten it wrong, and then they end up apologizing, ratings don't do well, and it's like, well, so you just assumed that you were so smart that no one was going to catch that. And so even speaking about having diverse employment behind the camera, it's important knowing how to actually light, because we all come in different shades, and we look different in June from November. They need to know that. I was on a set in hair and makeup, and they came with scissors, and I was like, whoa, I'm good. What's happening? And so that shows you that you do need diversification. It needs to be a 360. It should not be just for one episode. It not should be just for one season.
And one thing I want to be clear about, I wouldn't congratulate us too much. We have a lot of white characters on this show, and I want to populate the show as we move forward. I don't want Malika to be the only Black character on our show. That's the main character. She's not.
I accept. So
but I think that's important, because I think that people think, well, we have a Black character, we're so woke, and that's just, and I think that's the pressure that oh God, I'm the one Black character, so I gotta hold all that on my shoulders, just like in the writer's room, I'm the one Black writer in here, and I gotta speak to all, I've got to be the one that tells the story of all Black people. And so I think that's important, and so we're working towards adding more diversity into the show all the time. I'm proud that we have 2 Latinx characters on the show, and bringing more of that world in, and we have our Asian character, but we want more than that. What I'm saying is that I don't want to be a Benetton ad of we just put everybody in there. I really want it to be full.
And we've seen one episode. There are 13, and there are so many. Each character's storyline gets so deep. You've seen this beautiful surface, of everyone, and there is a lot of diversity on the show. I'm really proud of that.
We're trying, but it's also, by the way, we're trying to entertain too. So we're talking about the serious stuff, but it's also a pretty funny show. We have episodes that are just really romps and fun, and there's an episode where all the girls pick a Tinder date for each other, and so that's really funny. They all end up in the same. They all go to the same bar on their dates. don't tell their dates that they're all there, you know. So that's super fun. And then Davia, the character Davia, who's hilarious, has a birthday, and she takes everybody on a bar crawl, which is hilarious. And so we have episodes that are just fun because, you know, I think in this world, like, you know, you need a little humor too. You need a break from the pain, you know, and all of it. So.
Last question. To hype up the show, let us know. Hype up the show. Each of you. Give us a line. Just hype up the show. We're excited. We're super excited. We want to get everybody watching it. We want these ratings to jump through the roof. We want to see more Latinx characters, more Black characters. We want to see more diverse stories, more of downtown LA because we rarely come down here. Yeah, we want that. So
and we want to see more trans characters, more LGBTQ plus characters all around, all of it.
Yes.
And we will.
Oh, so was that your sell? Was that your sell?
That was part of it, but come back, I got more.
Okay. Cristian, kick it off.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. I'll speak on the Mariana in tech. So here are a little bit of numbers that were kind of staggering for us when we learned about all of this as we were doing our research and making sure we were telling Mariana's story full. In 2015, the National Center for Women in Information Technology put out a study and said that women held 57% of professional occupations, but in the computing sector, women only held 25%. And when you broke that number down, women of color African American women only held 3% of those jobs, and Latinas only held 1% of that job. And then you break that number down even more, and you talk about the different types of jobs, like engineers, technology leaders, software development. Those numbers are even lower. So I'm very proud of the story that we're telling with Mariana and the obstacles that she comes across, because it's something that, as a person of color, we've all come across these specific moments that you'll see on the show, and I think it's very real. It's based in reality. We don't try to gloss over things. We try to tell these impactful stories in a way that we think will make change.
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, and one thing I've always admired about, this show and the Fosters previously was that y'all aren't afraid to make people uncomfortable in a way that, it's stuff that needs to be talked about. It's uncomfortable to talk about, but it needs to be on the air. People need to be represented, and they need to see themselves on TV and represented in an amazing way. Y'all do y'all's research, and it shows. I'm just so happy to be a part of something that, if anything can just strike up a conversation or, spread awareness or acceptance with people. It's a huge blessing to be a part of.
And I think you guys, I don't know if you know, but that Cierra's an executive producer on the show. And so, she's wonderful and empowering, and also, she and Maia set this incredible tone on the set. The show wouldn't happen if they had not wanted to do the show and weren't, carrying the spinoff into another, Fosters into a new world, and being brave enough to do that, even though the fans were really mad at everybody that we were leaving the Fosters. And this woman can do anything. I gotta tell you, she is hilarious. You saw her sobbing in the bathroom. You saw her. Things we made her do on Fosters, roller derby, dance, and she just can do anything, and she's so delightful and game. So it is my honor and pleasure to work with you.
We're not worried.
You're gonna make me ugly cry again.
Ooh, does anyone in here love basketball? Yes. You're gonna love episode 6? Episode 6. That's all I gotta say. Hashtag at me.
I hope people will enjoy the show and will amplify the messages and just get people out there. We love doing it, and but also our goal is to entertain and give people an hour of thoughtful entertainment, and I hope it does well, and
because I want to keep telling
It
stories.
will, because you fought for all of us to be here.
Well,
And
you
we
know,
love you.
you guys are amazing.
So once again, thank you all. Please give my panel another hand.